Hello and welcome to Chapter 7 of our Leadership Development University. Hopefully you guys had a good week this week and are loving your business. It's quite the crazy time in our business, which it always is. There's always something to do, always something to be working on, and I think that's why I like it, because it's never the same. It doesn't give you a chance to get bored. But anyway, today we wanted to go over some ideas. I have some fun little object lessons to show you and talk about recruiting, because I think that's the most important part of your business. We've talked about, I've talked about it with a few of you, but if you are aiming to get director in the next few months, or if you're aiming for earning the incentive trip, or if you're aiming for any of these things that we're aiming for, you can sell 5,000 PRV a month and have a great month, have a good paycheck, but really, truly, the promotions are had, the incentives are made, the progress is seen through growth, through you growing your team and through helping your team to grow as well. So all over growth. Oh, dang, I just lost my notes. My computer keeps going to sleep.
While you're getting that up, that's something that, if you're trying to reach director, if you're trying to reach star director or superstar director or get those points, then yeah. And recruiting is something that, selling you have to do every month, but you'll create systems with that because you'll have existing customers, but recruiting, you're always looking for new people.
Yeah. So just for a rule of thumb, sometimes it's way less, sometimes it's way more, but just a nice rule of thumb, if you are looking to promote and kind of wanting to think about the numbers, it takes roughly around 20 to 30 team members, depending on how active everybody is, to get to director. So if you add up all of the PRV, it's 13,333 PRV. So if you're going to sell 5 yourself in the month, well, then the rest of your team has to make up the rest. If you're only going to sell 500 in the month, then obviously you have to know that you need to make that up somewhere else, and that if you have a team of just active consultants who all get active, then it's going to take even more than 30. So you can take those numbers and divide 13,333 divided by your team numbers, how many members you have, and then you can see if that's 337, and if your team usually does 500 each, well then you're great. So you either need to add more team members and hope that they will be, so that load can be carried. You could have 100 team members if they're all going to sell 130, right?
You can do what?
If you have 100 team members, they would all have to sell 130 to get there?
Yeah.
Is that right? So if your team is only selling 133 each, you need 100 team members to get to director. So, see, that's why the numbers are crazy. It's hard to just say you need this many. But if you have a couple that do 1,300, then you only need 10 of them. And you could be one of them. So again, it just depends on how active you are and how active your team is and how you can get them all going. So it's kind of a numbers game, in that the bigger the pot, the easier it is to get to those numbers and to consistently reach them. But at the same time, my mouth is not working today. It is a lot more determined by the quality, not necessarily, and not that smaller sellers are worse quality. I just mean the quality of the sales, how big of producers they are versus smaller. So anyway, that's kind of something to think about in there we go, let's bring it a little closer, in your planning and your projections. So today we're talking about Chapter 7, the power close, as well as our fun little a funnel. We're going to talk about a funnel today. So in this chapter, she talks about basically closing the deal. And I think that's kind of where I really liked the funnel.
The recruiting deal.
She's talking about she's talking about just the power close. We're talking about the recruiting deal because for me, it feels like you guys all know how to sell. You can all close the deal pretty well on getting a host to host, but sometimes we get hung up on the power close for recruiting. But yeah, it's the power close for anything. Getting anybody, even like getting your kids to do the dishes. It's the power close for anybody to do anything that you're wanting them to do. That's a skill that will obviously have its reach into all aspects of your life. So she's talking about many people are afraid to prospect and present the opportunity because they don't know enough. And I hear that a lot. I was talking with a new consultant of mine who just joined 2 weeks ago, and I was talking to her about already starting to think about recruiting, and already, especially so she could get her shooting star. And I said, a lot of people think that they need to have a success story before they start sharing it, or they need to know what they're doing before they start recruiting and inviting people, or they need to have some time under their belt before they start looking to grow their team, or they don't even think about it because they're like, I need to get my customer base, then I can expand. And it can be done that way. That's the beauty of our business. We can do it however you want to expand. It can take however long or short. But if you're wanting to really make it go, you can capitalize on that energy of having your brand new business and just starting something. And you don't even have to know what you're doing. You can just say, hey, let's learn it together. Jump on, come join with me and we'll figure this out together. Because sometimes that's the best way to learn, is to learn with somebody. So a lot of times we think, oh, I'm not a director, so I'll start leading my team with the director once I'm a director. Or I will start really having a good story to share, so then I'll start really recruiting hard once I have success. But it's backwards, get it? You won't have a success story until you start sharing and bringing other people on with you. Then you'll have something to share, and then you'll have shared experiences, and you'll have incentive trips to tell them about how fun it is, and you'll have promotions to tell them about how you reached your goals and things like that. But basically, the idea is you're just bringing them along in your adventure. You don't have to be like the professional know-it-all in this industry. You just have to say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but we can figure it out together. And that's the beauty of having such a great team that we're all a part of, that you can say, hey, let's do it all together. And we will, do it as a team. Sorry, this keeps turning off. So she says they're not, they fear that they either don't know enough, or that they, silly thing, or that they don't know how to handle objections. So unless somebody says sure and just jumps on, then they're like, I don't know what I would say to get them to jump on. So that's what we're talking about today, is basically like overcoming objections. And sometimes objections aren't, I don't want to do this and this is my case why. It's more just, these are my fears. So Jason Harwood did a training once, and he said there are 2 reasons why people don't do what they know they should do, or even what they want to do. 1, they don't know what to do. They need some more help. So they need to overcome their objection because they need more information. They don't really know how to sign up. They don't know that they just go to PWS and that they're active immediately, and they need a little bit more information. The second thing, and is way more common, is fear. They even might know how to do it. They might know what they want to do. They know that they should, but they're afraid to do it. So I think a lot of this chapter, again, it's so much to do with mindset, and so much to do with overcoming and becoming our best self, and creating this system of self-development for ourselves and for our team members. That I've heard it said that Sensi, our business, is basically self-development business with a paycheck. So we get paid to basically make ourselves better and work on ourselves and overcome our obstacles and overcome our mindset and our short-sightedness and our doubt and our fear, and just do it anyway and figure out how to do that. But again, those people starting with us, they haven't had that same benefit because they're just barely, because they're just barely starting out. So they don't know what it feels like to be scared and do it anyway. So that's where we get to help them. And that's the power in the Power Close. I think it's not like powering through, but it's helping them. I hope there's sound on everyone's device. Oh my gosh, I hope there's... Bev, I think you're the only one. Silent mode is on. Okay, so it was off. Okay, I'm hoping this is...
Can you hear us now, Bev?
And it might just be your device, but anyway. We'll see. I think either way it should be recording. I don't know.
Here, actually, you keep going back, and I'll go type in our room, see if my...
And go log on to your phone and see.
See if it works.
Okay.
Okay.
So for I hope this is working and you can hear me, so I'm just going to keep going. So she goes through a lot of different ways of working through those objections. So if you know that they're coming, and if you know that that's just part of the process of humanity and how we come to how we come to a decision, then it won't scare you off and be like, oh, she's asking too many questions, she's not going to be good, or she's going to be really high maintenance, or I don't want to have to talk her into this, so she's obviously not ready for it. That might not be the case. It might just be that she is, whoever the she or he, it's an ethereal she, your prospect is just a little bit scared, and that's coming out in, I need more info, because that's our safety net, right? So a lot of times if we, she goes through a lot of different ways of excuse bustings and a lot of examples. And so that's going to be our challenge today. We'll go through some more training really quickly, but I want you to think of the common excuses, which is basically camouflaging their fears, that you either hear or expect to hear when recruiting and presenting somebody with the opportunity. What kind of fears do you hear? And write up a response. What could you say to that? I really like her feel, felt, found method. So you validate their feelings. You say, oh, I totally understand why you would feel that way. It is scary, or money is tight, or it is scary to think about. Dave, can you hear me? I see you typing in. It is scary to think about starting something new, so I totally hear you. And I feel, a lot of people feel the same way. So you're validating their fears. And then you can say, you know what? I even felt the same way. I'm so not a salesperson. I didn't think, okay, good. Then we'll just keep going. I didn't think that, I would be very good at this either. And that's why I just was like, let me get my $500 in sales in the first month in case I stink at this, then I can walk away. But you know what I found is that it worked out way better, and it was way easier, and that I could do it according to how I blah, 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 blah. So I see what you're feeling. I hear you. I felt the same way, or many people felt the same way, or such and such team member felt the same way, or, somebody so that you're relating to them. And then what I found is, and so instead of being like, your fears are not rational, that's just you making something up, or saying, you're just making up excuses, change your mindset. You can validate their fears and their thoughts and their feelings, because those feelings that they own are very real, even if it's simply just the fear of, can I do this? Do I want to do this? Is this too much of a commitment? Or is this going to be scary? Are you going to be hounding me every day? Like some people have had bad experiences, or they even just imagine what these bad experiences might be. So we must validate them, because it's true and real, and it's legitimate what they're feeling.
Well, and sometimes like maybe not even you've ever felt that.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe, but it's likely that maybe you felt, maybe not the exact same thing for the same reason, but maybe you felt anxiety or nervous or uncertain, right? You may have team members that don't feel like they can trust Scentsy, right? Or everything's out of stock, holy cow, what a terrible business, or whatever the case might be. And so, you may be able to say, I can understand the uncertainty and the anxiety that you're feeling. So it doesn't have to be, number one, it doesn't have to be that you felt the exact same thing for the exact same reason. But if you felt the same feeling, then you can relate to that. Now, if not, then maybe you can say, maybe you've seen other people feel that same way. And then you can say, well, I know my uncle, cousin, sister, best friend, whatever, felt that. They found this, so then you can still find a way to connect and relate to them.
Totally. Everybody wants to be heard and seen. That is a universal need. That is a universal need. And with Scentsy, even if it's just giving them the opportunity, we can fill that need. Even if they don't decide to join. For you to be able to truly hear somebody and truly see them and truly help them just feel validated, that's huge. So, what a great blessing we have to be able to hear somebody's fear and or objection or worry and help them work through that. So, or even just validate it and then they can work through it. So I really like the feel, felt, found method because again, what I've found is that a lot of times our fears are very real, but they also can be managed and there's ways around them. So, okay, so she goes through, in the book, she goes through a lot of different examples of obstacles or objections that other people might have. So like I said, that's our challenge for you, is to go through and make your list of either ones you've already heard of and didn't really know how to go around, or ones that you can imagine might come up, or something like that, just to help you kind of get those wheels turning of, okay, just because they have an objection or a fear or a worry doesn't mean that it's a deal breaker and that the deal is over and that they're going to walk away and never join you. It just means that you need to help them see over that. So
if you're looking for some already scripted answers to some objections or concerns that people have, there's 2 pages. I mean, you've probably read it, but these are really good.
Yeah, and then come up with your own so that it's, yours, because having it be authentic to you will always be more natural. You'll remember it better, as well as it'll feel better, and it won't feel like you're shutting them down, because that's not what we're in it to do. That excuse busting doesn't mean that you're just gonna power through them and shut them down. No, we're wanting to validate them and help them through. So I like the last part where she also talks about no doesn't mean forever. It may mean I don't know enough. And she talks about multiple exposures and things like that. And that is where we are going to talk about, Dave came up with these fun 3 things. We basically are calling it the recruiting funnel. And so the idea of a funnel, we've been researching a lot of online courses, and we're in this online course that we're taking now, and it's all talking about funnels. And I love the mentality of a funnel. I used to think of it as a bucket, that we are getting all of our customers, all of our contacts, all of our everything into one big bucket. And we need to fill up that bucket so that we're not always, and fill up the holes so that we're not always running the hose to fill up that bucket, but so that it can kind of stay there. Well, the thought of a bucket, now that I think about it, is a very fixed mindset. Because once that bucket becomes full, it'll either have to overflow or I have to turn off the faucet. The thought that it kind of gets to an end goal. Well, with our business, you're never really done. You're always adding to your team, pouring into new people, helping find new recruits, helping market new products, whatever it is. It's a continual process. And so I don't really like the bucket anymore, as well as because that puts everybody in the same bucket. You don't know if some in your bucket are prime and ready to join right now, or if some are just happy to just be in the bucket forever and they don't ever want to join, or they don't ever want to be a leader on your team, even if they're in your team, but they're kind of all in there together. Does that make sense? I like the idea of being able to work with the workers. They say it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of your business is done by 20% of your customers. 80% of your team is done by, or team sales, team volume is done by generally 20% of your team in general, obviously. So the 80-20 rule doesn't really work with the bucket, because the bucket, you have 100% of everybody. And once you fill it, the idea was just that if you create a system to catch it, then your faucet isn't just continually flowing, but you can catch it so you can see progress. And then when you're adding new customers to your customer base, you already have a bunch. So you're already meeting your minimums, and then you're just adding more to it. So that's the idea behind the bucket. But a lot of times we think of it like a hose or like a straw, where you put somebody through the top and then they automatically join. So you ask somebody, they join. You offer the opportunity to somebody to join your team, they join. You show somebody a new product, they buy it. You train your team member, they do it. And it's just it's a continual cycle of you put it in and it comes out the end. But it's more like a funnel. See how big it is at the top versus the small, and they even have smaller funnels that would probably be, this was just the only one I have, smaller funnels that are probably a lot more accurate. But this is easily a quarter the size of the top with this funnel, which means 4-to-1. So if nothing else, this is a funnel. But like I said, a lot of funnels, they keep getting smaller and smaller so that you could refill the ketchup bucket or whatever. And that's the idea of a funnel, is to grab as much as you can and funnel it down. Instead of dumping it into one big bucket, you funnel them down through a process to help it kind of not weed out, because that makes it sound like somebody's bad or something is bad, but to help them truly fit into the opportunity. Just like you're gonna fit into whatever you're trying to fill in this, it fits in better. You want to funnel in your prospects to either buy from you or to host from you, or especially to join your team. So Dave came up with this recruiting funnel of three different aspects that
3 things we can take away from that.
Yeah, from the funnel analogy and thinking.
I think the first thing is, if we think of recruiting as a straw, and we talk to Bill, and then Bill becomes a consultant, or Sally, and so on and so forth. I think what that can do is oh, good, thanks. I'm glad that you're back with us, Bev. But basically what that can do is, if we talk to Bill and our expectation is that Bill joins, but Bill doesn't join, well, then we can feel like a failure, right? We walk away thinking my straw's broken. I'm a terrible recruiter. I'm never trying it again. I'm not talking to Bill ever again. And I'm embarrassed now, or whatever the case might be. But that shifting from this straw to the funnel mindset helps us realize a couple of things, which is that, like Becky mentioned, you've got to talk to,
4 or 5 to 1.
4 or 5 people, at least with this funnel, to get people to convert.
And our funnel is probably closer to 10 to 1. It's probably smaller just by the numbers. And again, it depends on who you are and where you catch them in their part of the process. But it's not a 1 to 1. So
that's the first thing we want to talk about. Was number 1 is conversion, which is getting them to join, isn't always a straw. It's a funnel, right? You might talk to 100 people and you'll get some of them to come out below, and it's going to be different every time. So I think, let's see, talk 10, big net.
As well as, like you said before, just to reiterate, it's not a failure if you talk to Bill and Bill says no. If you talk to Jane and Jane says, no thanks. It's not a failure. It's just part of the process. It's natural. It doesn't mean you even did it wrong or said something wrong. It's part of the funnel effect. So.
Yeah. So that was the first thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Straw versus funnel. The second thing, that we're going to talk about was that, like Becky mentioned, you never know where they're at in that funnel, right? So they say a lot of times in marketing that it takes 7 times for people to be exposed to something, right? Which is this awareness up here, down to converting down here, right? So if you think about it in your own life, maybe you saw a commercial during the Super Bowl, but you didn't do anything about it, right? Or maybe you heard about something, right? And then you don't always take action right away, but sometimes, and Becky has a good story, her own Sensi story of joining Sensi, how you never know when you ask somebody what experience they've had with Sensi before, or even direct selling. And so do you want to kind of share yours?
Well, yeah, we were just thinking about this, kind of number of 7. And I was like, when my sponsor asked me, she just had to ask me once. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And then I joined. Like, she didn't have to really prod me along a lot because I was in the point. So then I was like, well, maybe that 7 doesn't work. But then when I was thinking about it, I was like, no, my mom prior to that had said, you know what, you should join Sensi. And prior to that, I had already known Orville because he was in our church congregation. So I already knew him. So I already had the confidence in the type of business that he would run. And in my same congregation of just a couple neighborhoods, I already knew 30 consultants. So I had been exposed to it just by seeing it around and by seeing them do it and by seeing them love the products. And I knew Orville, and my mom said that, when I was trying to find a job and didn't want to go back to work because I had little babies, she was like, you know what you should do? You should join Sensi and you should run it like a business. I think you'd be really good at it. And then my sponsor came along after all of these different preparation, they call them touch points or exposure times. It doesn't necessarily mean that I was invited 7 times or 6 times prior, but it means that it crossed my path multiple times, even if it's just seeing one in someone's home and thinking, oh, I like that. That could be it. That could be as far as it goes. Or smelling something and being like, oh, I really like it when my house smells good. Or somebody inviting you, or somebody physically saying, hey, do you want to join my team? And needing to think about it a couple of times. You don't know where they are in that process. So for me, like I said, I was thinking, well, man, that didn't really ring true for me because I was invited once and I joined. But it wasn't. When I reversed, it was probably 6 or 7 times easy that seed had been planted in me. And my sponsor wasn't the one that had to follow up 6 times, but you never know. If you're the one planting that seed, then you can be there to help harvest when they are ready. She even talks about that in her book. She talks about some people need multiple exposures, and while the timing might not have been right the first time, a lot of it, like we talked about before, is it's timing with life or with a job or with a relationship or with an economy or with whatever it is. Sometimes it's just timing. So she says she's had people join her a year later. Be sure to follow up often. And then, so that's one thing that you need to figure out for you is how are you going to keep nurturing them through this funnel is, oh yeah, I guess that's number 3.
Yeah, and so like Becky's saying, the other thing to think about is sometimes you'll talk to Bill and Bill might just kind of not really respond to it, right? So he might stay up here. Don't worry about that. You just never know. It may be that, a year from now, 3 months, he loses his job and he's kind of in the market for something. Or it may be that he sees your success, right? We had a dentist's wife join years ago because he got tired of seeing Becky come in, putting up a little display.
Bringing in my testers and my catalog and telling all the ladies in the office, hey, I'm putting in an order, I'm here, and then so during the hour that I'd be there with all my kids getting their checkups, all the office people would put in their orders and I'd leave with $500 in orders and he was like, dang, I need in on that.
Yeah, so he ended up joining, right? And I think we had approached him before or something like that, but anyways, you just never know, right? So they may be here forever at the very top before they end up deciding to join. Or they may be here forever, right? That's the point, is the mindset of, you just kind of continue to do things that would attract them to it, right? And help them. And
have a system to keep them moving through your funnel, so that they don't just stay at the top and then maybe bounce out, but then you help kind of guide them in that process. And that takes us to number 3, which is, and our final little topic. So the one was, it's a funnel, not a straw. It's not 1 + 1. It's kind of a cast your net wide because you need to, it's the process, trust the process. And number 2 is it may take more than one time, more than one exposure, the rule of 7 to get them. So again, keep nurturing them somehow. As well as number 3 is the call to action. You have to actually invite them and you have to actually suggest an action that you want them to take. I think a lot of times we as Scentsy consultants just think, well, if I just show how great my life is, or if I just show how great these products are, or if I just show whatever, which that is true, that's attraction marketing. But you can also go after it and you can also tell them exactly what you want them to do. Just like they do in real commercials. They tell you, buy Tide Pods and your laundry will be cleaner, or take your kids on this vacation and your family will be better, take them to Sandals Resort and you'll make memories and your kids will not fight anymore. You know what I mean? Like, they have a call to action. Book now, or call today to reserve your spot, or 5 installments of $9.99 and you get this whatever. Like, they tell you what they want you to do. So we need to be doing the same thing and not be afraid to say, hey, here's your call to action. I want you to join my team, or I want you to join my VIP group, or where I can nurture you a little bit further down that funnel. Or I want you to come with me to a bacon event night. Whatever it is, don't be afraid to actually give a real invitation. And we kind of talked about how it's like the waitress with coffee. I don't even drink coffee, but every time I go out, which we don't go out to eat very often, but when we do, every time, the waitress is always circling with her little coffee pot, and she will ask me, hey, do you want coffee after your meal? Or do you want coffee with your breakfast or whatever? And I'll say, no, thank you. Well, she doesn't just ask once. She asks a couple times. Or like, even if I said yes and I wanted some coffee, she'll come back to refill it because I might not be all the way satisfied yet. So, and am I offended that the waitress has asked me and has even asked me multiple times? No. And if I were a coffee drinker, maybe I would be ready after I'd finished my meal or whatever. And then I would be happy to have her. So I didn't have to flag her down and be like, oh, I'm ready now. But she would be there offering and kind of making sure that I'm taken care of. That's the idea, is you're taking care of your prospects and making sure that they don't have to track you down, but that you're helping them decide if they want it or not. So always be inviting with a call to action. And attached to that is a tracking system somehow, so that you can keep moving them down through that funnel, because the funnel, the very bottom of it is to getting them to convert, getting them to do what you want them to do. And remember, information leads to decisions, where they're up here at the top and they're like, oh yeah, that is a great whatever. It is a great time to join. That is a great laundry offering, product that you have, whatever it is. But you don't want them to stay at the top of your funnel to where they now know about it and are exposed. If you want to get them down to the bottom of your funnel where they are actually taking action, that is where emotion comes into play. Emotion leads to action. And so that's to help get them there. You give them the emotion of confidence, the emotion of, okay, I can do this. It's my time. The emotion. That's why we help them through the obstacles, overcoming obstacles. Again, we're not pushing them into something that they don't want to do. We're helping give them the emotion of, I can do this. She's going to help me. He's going to be my mentor. This team is going to be a place where I'm heard and valued and found and where I can belong. Or this is going to be the way that I'm going to pay for my kids' back to school supplies, because otherwise I don't know. It's that emotion of an opportunity that we really truly can give them, and that isn't just going to come unless and until you perfect your beautiful little funnel. So
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. I mean, so those are the key things. Number one, it's a funnel, not a straw, right? So don't burden yourself with thinking you're a failure.
Or don't expect everyone that you invite to join.
Yeah. Number two, it take more than once, right? Don't keep hounding them, right? Just be polite and, hey, you know what? I know we talked about it. Here's this video of SFR that I thought you might enjoy. Or I know you talked about it. Here's the incentive trip that's coming up. Just thought I'd let you know. Same thing that you do with your customers is how you could treat potential recruits. You're just kind of keeping them in the know, right? Just, I know that we talked about this and you were considering it. Just thought I'd share this or whatever. That's also the same reason when you go on an incentive trip or on SFR, or if you have a great party, or if you just got a paycheck, sharing that on social media and saying, hey, just got paid, this is great. So finally, the third one was always being willing to, continually put people into your funnel, right? Always filling up that top part of your funnel.
Yeah, with a call to action and a way to follow up. Whether that's putting them into an email newsletter to where you're nurturing that relationship until they are ready, and then you're giving them the invitation. Or whether that's a Facebook group, whether it's a VIP group, or my friend Cass, she has a prospective consultants group that she puts in anybody who's ever talked about maybe wanting to join, or who's ever even liked her page and she's like, hey, would you like to, join this group on the opportunity? She puts them in that opportunity group. Or, we could even do even just a list on your phone of anybody who you think would be good, or who's ever, or the person that likes every single one of your Scentsy posts, even if she doesn't comment or say, pick me, she's at least showing interest. So she would probably go on your hot list. So keeping track, we talked about another really good way of keeping track that's already built in is Amy, our, I was looking for my phone. It's right there. The app that works through our workstation that you can keep track of prospective team members, and you can tag them as such. And you can even have Amy give you a reminder to say, remind me in 6 weeks, or remind me at the beginning of the new catalog, to be like, hey, it's going to be a really good catalog and we're just going into the high season. Why don't you come jump on with me? Is this a good time for you to start your business? Things like that. So use systems to help create that funnel. Like I said, there are a lot of different ways you can do it, but at least keep a running list, a running tally, your short list of when you have a party order going in and you say, hey, I've got a discounted host kit. But I have to turn it in by tonight. I know you were thinking about it. Is now a better time? Or should I keep moving and offer it to somebody else? And then they can say, oh, you know what? Let somebody else have it. Or they could be like, oh, this is my time. That's the call to action, because it's timely and you have to do it now because you're turning it in and you're giving them something of value because it's only a discounted kit instead of the full price kit and whatever. But if you didn't ever invite or have that list of who you'd even want to invite, then you might just close the party like normal and miss out on your opportunity. So keep that funnel mentality in mind, because that really is the key to recruiting. It's a mentality, but it's also actions that you take to support that mentality. So, and then you will be a power closer, and you'll be amazed at how often you are growing your team. So, yeah. Here's to a great week. If you guys have any other questions, as always, post them below or in the team page, and we will help. I can't wait to see your excuse busting. Think of as many as you can, because if nothing else, the process and exercise of thinking of an obstacle and then thinking your way through it helps you as well. So, and we can, if you guys are hitting some roadblocks, we can think of some, or like I said, she's got a lot of good ones in the book to kind of help start your mind thinking along those lines. But a speed bump doesn't mean that it's a failed attempt, or that they don't need it in their life, or that they won't join. It just means I either need more info, or remember, they either need more info, they don't know what they're doing, or two, it's just fear getting in the way. And then if we help them and have that emotion that can lead to action, they'll be so proud of themselves. They'll be so happy, because fear doesn't make us feel good. When we give in to fear, we feel like a failure. When really it's fear making us do it. So help somebody else improve their life and get a hold of that fear and do hard things and run into the wind. Because it's way easier when you're holding the hand with somebody else instead of just trying to do it all on your own. So anyway, we love you guys, and we're right here running along with you, holding your hands. Let's do this together. And excited for another great week of good progress. So
wrapping up the month.
Yeah, wrapping up the month. Hit it hard, strong. We have 3 days left, 4 if you count today. That's huge time in Scentsy Land. If you have big goals that you're trying to achieve, close out the month strong, and you guys are just doing great. We're so proud of you, and we love you so much. Here's to a great week. Bye.